Fox News Alert now. Our other big story, Secretary of State John Kerry touched down in Baghdad earlier today as the country continues to spiral into turmoil. Iraqi forces again trying to push back ISIS fighters after 4 towns and 2 border crossings with Jordan and Syria fell into the hands of militants this weekend. Secretary Kerry is meeting with Prime Minister Maliki and other minority group leaders to try to solve the crisis. Peter Ducey right now is live in Washington with the latest for us. Hi, Peter.
Patty Ann, the Secretary of State is pressing Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki to put together a new central government that is more inclusive. The violence ripping Iraq apart right now is sectarian, and the message from Foggy Bottom being delivered in Baghdad this morning is that Sunnis, Shiites, and Kurds might get along better if Iraq's leadership represented all of their interests. Prime Minister al-Maliki's government is mostly Shiite right now, and America's top diplomat thinks that's a problem. So here's how Kerry explained his pitch before touching down in Iraq.
This is a critical moment where together we must urge Iraq's leaders to rise above sectarian motivations and form a government that is united in its determination to meet the needs and speak to the demands of all of their people.
Kerry and Maliki sat down with each other for an hour and 40 minutes this morning. Walking out of that meeting at al-Maliki's residence, Kerry turned to reporters and said, "That was good." But State Department officials are telling the group traveling with Kerry that Iraqi leaders are rattled by the rise of ISIS in their country, and high-level government leaders there are feeling the effects of these militant attacks firsthand, as many on the Sunni side and the Shiite side have seen friends killed and homes destroyed in the last 10 days. Now that an American team is on the ground, the official description of ISIS is evolving as well. Just yesterday, ISIS was described as a criminal syndicate in a background briefing. Today, American officials are saying ISIS is an army with political grievances that need to be understood so the people of Iraq know how to effectively stand up to ISIS and counter their attacks. Patty Ann?
Interesting. Peter Ducey, live in Washington. Thanks.
Back on the map here, Patty Ann. Just a quick refresher here. Divide Iraq in 3, right? That kind of gives you an understanding for how this conflict is now developing. 1 would be the Kurdish zone, 2 would be the Sunni zone, and 3 would be the Shia zone that, again, aligns itself religiously, at least, with Iran. All the focus for the past 3 days now has been, back it up one time, Rob, if you could. All the focus for the past 3 days now has been the western part of Iraq, okay, north of Baghdad, and all these towns here that are operated by ISIS and these Sunni fighters going into Sunni-populated towns. And this is critical now from over the weekend. The border crossing here near Syria has now been taken by ISIS. All right, the border crossing here with Jordan has also been overtaken by ISIS. And that Jordanian movement here is a real critical point to keep in mind, because that's what these Sunni fighters want. They want to expand this zone and work toward that caliphate. Now we can go forward. Last week we were talking about this area from Aleppo down to Baghdad and the eastern border with Iran. That was last week. Over the weekend, if you blinked, you missed it, because this area now has increased maybe by 50% so far. And one more screen to look at, the number of towns now in control by ISIS. A lot of them are big, Mosul, Tikrit, you've got Ramadi and Fallujah. A lot of the other ones are small towns, but this border area here is very critical, too, to see how, well, what they can control, what they can hold on to. And with John Kerry landing in Baghdad, he's going to talk to all 3 groups today, the Kurds, the Sunni, and the Shia, and we're going to carry the headlines for you out of Iraq shortly.
Yeah, we're watching that right now. Well, meanwhile, here at home, very mixed reactions to the dangers in Iraq. Senator Rand Paul suggests the U.S. should not get involved, while former Vice President Dick Cheney says the problem is much bigger than just one country.
I know they're bad terrorists, and yes, we should prevent them from exporting terror, but I'm not so sure where the clear-cut American interest is.
The first thing we have to do is recognize we've got a hell of a problem, and it's not just in Iraq.
They're so extreme that Al-Qaeda, core Al-Qaeda, Zawahiri, has denounced them for their tactics. I would say the vacuum, the training ground, that the state that they're creating in Syria and now Iraq is far surpassing what we saw before 9/11 in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Well, coming up, we'll talk to Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, get his take on what our next steps should be.